a remarkable man and a remarkable senator. There's a lot of discussions about cutting $100 billion from the budget. Rand Paul has proposed a budget that cuts $500 billion. I'm reminded of the old movie Crocodile Dundee. That's not a knife. This is a knife. Or for those of you that are fans of Spinal Tap, Oz goes to 11. Rand Paul understands the fight is about liberty. My dad came to America as an immigrant from Cuba fleeing oppression. And when I was a boy, he used to say to me all the time, when we faced oppression, there was a place to flee to. If we lose our liberty here, where do we go? That's what this fight is about. I am very glad to recognize Kentucky Tea Party activist Phil Moffitt to introduce the great Senator Rand Paul.
It's a great day to be a conservative, isn't it? We have any liberty lovers out there? You do know it's still rhino season, don't you? My name's Phil Moffitt. I'm the conservative Republican candidate for governor in Kentucky, and I have the Tea Party backing just as Dr. Rand Paul had when he ran in his primary in general, and I appreciate you guys coming out today. Our platform is based on 4 things, basically. Economic prosperity by getting rid of income taxes and replacing it with a consumption tax. Using the 10th Amendment to get the federal government out of our backyard. Kill things like the changing our government education system to something that's student achievement focused and gives parents choices. And last but not least, folks, quit piling debt on our children and grandchildren. Primary this May 17th, and I invite you to join us to fight and kill off another rhino and put another Tea Party Republican in office so that we can move this country forward. It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Rand Paul. As the most recognizable Tea Party candidate in the nation, he changed the dialogue in politics. His ideas about cutting spending, balancing the federal budget, the role of government in our life, and auditing the Fed. It drove the liberal media crazy. They assailed him as being abstract, crazy, too kooky for Kentucky, if you can believe it. But Rand responded with a message. He said, I have a message from the Tea Party. We are here to take our country back. And ladies and gentlemen, when he introduced his budget to cut $500 billion out of current spending, he made me smile. And I thought to myself, thank God for Rand Paul. Thank God he's doing what he said he would do. And I don't think we've seen anything yet, folks. There's a lot more to come. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Senator Dr. Rand Paul.
Is there anybody here from the Tea Party? Yeah! Are we gonna let Washington co-opt the Tea Party? Will you fight for and help me defend the Constitution? At the turn of the last century, the chaplain for the U.S. Senate was Edwin Hale. And they asked him, "Do you pray for the Senate?" And he said, "Well, I look at the senators and I pray for the people." When I was elected to the Senate, a fellow senator called me to congratulate me, and he said, "The first 6 months, you'll pinch yourself and say, 'How did I get here?' The next 6 months, you'll pinch yourself and say, 'How the hell did the rest of these guys get here?'" I brought with me today 2 examples, gross examples of government ineptitude. There's probably thousands of others, but I brought these 2 that I learned about recently from Senator Collins. It's not that government is inherently stupid, although that's a debatable question. But I have 2 examples that may make you wonder whether this is an inherent trait of government. The Energy Department has an Energy Star program. You've seen the stickers for energy efficiency? Well, Senator Collins got wind of this and she said, "You know what? I think maybe they'll approve anything." So she had the Investigator General send some things over. This is an air freshener. I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. This is the actual air freshener that was sent over to the Energy Department and it got a sticker. Okay? We also have, this is a near facsimile. This is actually the smaller version. It's much larger than this. A gasoline-powered alarm clock. It's going to save electricity. Early on in my campaign, I stopped by a book publisher in Shepherdsville, Kentucky. It's near Louisville. This book publisher had published Barry Goldwater's Conscience of a Conservative, the first edition. I've always liked the passage from the first chapter where he says, "I have little interest in streamlining government or making it more efficient because I mean to reduce its size." I do not propose to promote welfare, but rather to extend freedom. My aim is not to repeal bills, not to pass bills, but to repeal them. My aim is not to inaugurate new programs, but to cancel out old ones that do violence to the Constitution. I will not ask or try to discover whether legislation is needed before I have discovered whether it is constitutional. And if I am told that I've neglected my constituents' interest, I will tell them that I was informed that the main interest of my constituents was liberty. And in that cause, I am doing the best that I can. Barry Goldwater mentions one Supreme Court case in that book, Wickard v. Filburn. Many of you know it. There's a farmer in California who wants to grow 20 acres of wheat. The government says you can only grow 10 acres of wheat. He says, "By what authority do you tell me this?" And they say the Commerce Clause. And he says, "Well, I'm not even going to sell the wheat. I'm going to feed it to my cattle." And he says, they say to him, "Well, by your inactivity, by not doing anything, you can indirectly affect the price of wheat." And they enforce this. That ruling was in the 40s. For 60 and 70 years now, we've been working with this notion that the Commerce Clause says that our government can do anything. Until Obamacare came along. They scoffed at us when we said it wasn't constitutional. Nancy Pelosi looked like a deer in the headlights. She couldn't believe that anyone would question the constitutionality. Judge Napolitano asked Representative Clyburn,